All right. So this is homework 6, number 1. Homework 6, number 1. Let's see what it says. So write a C program to read the values of a 6 by 6 2D array from a file and then produce an output file that contains the transpose of the array. Array values are decimal. The input and output files contain one array row on each text line of the files. So if you're wondering what a transpose array is essentially it's gonna switch the values. So I'll just show right here. Let me just get the input file that I used. So yeah, so this is the input file that I had. So as you can see, it's 2.3, 2.0, 2.0, 3.1415, negative 10.2, and negative 0.777 as the first row. Then the first column is 2, negative 5, 100, 65, negative 11, and 13. If we were going to do the transpose of this, then all the values from the first row will become the column, and all the values from the column would become the first row. So it's just gonna swap the column with the row and the row with the columns for the transpose. So this is the actual code. You have include stdio for standard input output, include stdlib, because we're going to be manipulating these sorts of stuff because it's an input file. Then before int main is define the number of rows and columns. So in this one I did 6 because that's how much I had in my input file. So I just kept it as a 6 by 6. And I also think they asked for a 6 by 6. So I'm just going to check to be sure. Yeah, they specifically asked for a 6 by 6. So that's why. So inside the int main, you're going to have to open an input and output file. So that's why this line is here. So file, asterisk input file, asterisk output file, then float, because the input file was dealing with floats or integers, I mean decimal numbers. So that's why it's float. Then A, I'm just calling the array A for simplicity, number of rows, number of columns. So it knows it's an array of 6 by 6. Int I and j and int counter. I'll show why we need these later. So you're just going to have this sort of standard input if statement where if the input or int f equals f open, then it's going to take the input file that we had, so which is this one, and it's going to read it. And if it doesn't detect anything, it'll give you an error. Then it's also going to do the same thing, but with the out f, and instead of read mode, it's going to be in write mode, so you can write something as an output file. And then if it doesn't detect anything, I'll just print in there. So first we have to the scan the numbers we had in the input file. That's why I have the I for I equals 0 and for j equals 0. So essentially, you're going to have two for loops. You're going to have I make scan each and every single row, and j scan each and every single column. So essentially, it's going to be for when I is equal to 0, I is less than the number of rows, which is 6, and increment by I plus plus, so it goes from each, so it goes to the next row each time. And then there's the second for loop for j is equal to 0, j is less than the number of columns, which is 6, j plus plus, so it tells j go to the next column. Then f scanf, you're not using scanf because this is an input file, and when you have an input file, you have to make sure you use fscanf. Then it's going to be fscanf inf, so it tells the code it's going to scan from an input file f, which is homework 6 input.txt, percent %f because we're dealing with floats, and it's storing it in the array a I j. So yeah, that's the gonna scan the input. That's gonna scan everything from the input file. Then this second for loop here is gonna actually do the transpose. So for I is equal to 0, I is less than the number of rows, I plus plus, for j is equal to 0, j is less than the number of columns, j plus plus. Now it's really simple. All you have to do is do f printf into the output file, which is outf percent .2f. That way it gives you like up to 2 decimals, and then then you just swap I from here with j. So that's how you do the transpose. So like these two are like the same thing, except this one is aij and this one is aji. So it just swaps the rows with the columns. And then you can also do fprint out %c the character for a new line. That way it's not all in just like one single line. You can just have it in like multiple lines and have a proper 6x6 array. Then you're going to end it off with an f close f input file and f close f output file. And then this is what it looked like. So I'll just go for the input file real quick. So as I said before, this whole row is going to become the new column for the transpose, and this column right here is going to become the new row. So right here we have 2.3, 2.0, 2.0, and 2.3, -5, and 100. So in the output, it should become 2.3, -5, 100 for the first tree in the first row. And then for the first column, it should be 2.3, 2.0, 2.0. And yeah, that's what happens. So everything from the row here became the new column, and everything from the column became the new row. And it's all because we scanned it as AIJ, and then we printed it out as AJI. So yeah, did that make sense? Well,